Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Downs from Arup and Partners, and I'll be presenting today as part of this year's Arup YSIP cohort with Grace, Lucy, and Maha. Arup is a global advisory, design and engineering consultancy that is focused on shaping a better world. Arup have and continue to work on a range of projects across the built and natural environment, including projects of importance at a national, regional, and local scale. The construction industry is currently a major contributor towards global greenhouse gas emissions. This is evidenced by the fact that 39% of current global carbon emissions are accounted to buildings and construction, with 11% of that total coming from embodied carbon. Waste is a significant global issue that contributes towards climate change and pollution. 30% of waste in the EU comes from construction demolition, and this type of waste contains material with high resource value. A linear consumption process exists for construction materials today. Materials are mined and produced using high energy processes used in construction, with waste then later being produced. The industry can and should transition towards a more circular industry, and the widespread use of reclaimed materials in construction is a means of contributing towards this. The challenge that we have set for our group is how might we reduce carbon emissions and waste by influencing creators of the built environment to use reclaimed materials. Grace will now provide detail about why the circular consumption process is already not the norm.
So this move from a linear consumption process to a circular one seems like a no-brainer. So why isn't everyone doing this already? We've engaged with various stakeholders in the supply chain to try to understand this. We found that building designers and engineers had no way of understanding what reclaimed materials existed, and most designers had never worked with reclaimed materials before, and therefore they had no idea how to design with them and what testing is required to ensure that they are safe. While architects like Jan saw the aesthetic and heritage value in using items like reclaimed bricks and stone in new buildings, he mentioned that these materials add potential risks to the process. He also discussed that it could be hard to convince others that second-hand did not mean inferior quality. A demolition contractor mentioned he wasn't actually aware of any demand for reclaimed materials, which meant he wasn't going to spend the additional time and money to deconstruct, store, and refurbish them. On the supply side, we found that existing salvage yards are focused on providing materials for small domestic projects and don't have any interaction with the designers of large buildings. So there were lots of challenges raised by these groups, and we were aware that we couldn't solve them all. What we did recognize was that this was a highly interdependent supply chain that was also very siloed. Those at the beginning of the process had no communication with those at the end of the process. Speaking to these stakeholders, it became obvious that to allow the industry to start to overcome the logistical challenges, there was a real need to create connection between these groups to enable an informed conversation to take place and for demand to be realized. So we're using a systems approach to attack the issue on 3 fronts. First, we will create and share technical guidance to help building designers to specify reclaimed materials on their projects. Then, building on this improved awareness, we will create Rebay, a digital platform that establishes a connection between designer and reclaimed material. Finally, to challenge the perceptions of construction waste and encourage demand, we will showcase successful projects to the public. I'll now pass on to Lucy to cover these interventions in more detail.
Thanks, Grace. We have secured funding to conduct research of existing academic papers, government trends, the market, as well as Arup initiatives. The technical guidance will signpost people to case studies of reclaimed materials in use, with lessons learned and previous challenges to implement reclaimed materials on a project, and point to further research. The next step is Arup Rebay, a digital platform. Rebay will facilitate connection between designer and reclaimed materials, providing the guidance to use the materials safely and effectively. Unlike platforms like Gumtree or eBay, it is managed by qualified professionals and includes the technical information required to reuse waste material on mainstream construction projects. These slides show a prototype we've built to demonstrate how the site will appear to the user. So this one's the homepage. This next slide shows a map, which is a wide-eyed view showing the locations of different materials available. It would be possible to apply search functions, for example, to look for steel beams or for a specific grade and size of a steel I-beam. Once you click on the location, more details appear. These details include pictures of the product, quantity, previous uses, the carbon emissions associated with transport to the location, and the carbon comparison between using this product versus a new one. The site would also have a library for technical guidance on materials, built from our initial research. This would include precedent for examples where material has been reused before. Arup Rebate closes the loop between waste materials and designer, and therefore reduces landfill and the carbon emissions associated with making new construction materials. Maha will now talk about the third step to our solution.
Thanks, Lucy. Arup's legacy in the built environment has been showcased previously at the likes of VNA in 2016. We hope to develop in this partnership and showcase Arup's project examples using reclaimed materials, demonstrating the beauty in reuse and how this can be a way to maintain cultural heritage and catalyze creative building design. This will not only highlight Arup's work in the field, but also create opportunities to upskill externally, create partnerships, and enable circular designs of the future to be delivered. So far in our journey, we have conducted several targeted and informal engagements, including 2 online workshops. Since we have also secured funding to enable our next stage of research and deliver an educational piece to our colleagues within Arup. So to wrap this up for everyone, we have decided to address our challenge in a 3-stage approach. Stage 1, research for the technical guidance. Stage 2, the Arup rebate. This will allow us to link internal demand before we jump in to address logistical challenges and hopefully create demand. Following the success of this, we can consider launching this platform externally. In stage 3, the showcase, exhibiting Arup's work in the reclaimed materials space, developing partnerships and inspiring the public with the endless opportunities of regenerative design. So let's not waste another opportunity and build a greener and more circular future together. If this is of interest to you, we would love for you to connect with us. Thanks for your time, and we welcome your questions.
All right, excellent work with the timing. All right, so I'll leave it open to our judges who would like to go first.
I'll go. I've had a little experience with getting new construction materials into the market, so I know how difficult it is. And there's the regulatory component as well. How are you handling that? Like, obviously, you need time for this to happen. So, how long do you think it's going to take for this to to sink in, to get to the ambition that you seek, right? And what are these regulatory barriers, or just straight up market barriers that how long is it going to take? What do you think?
I can pitch in on the regulatory ones. So kind of to our surprise, there are already regulations in place to allow for the reuse of some materials. So for instance, steel, around 2 years ago, there was some codified guidance that came out, which actually enables engineers and designers to specify reclaimed steel on their projects. I think the market factors are what will take a little longer to try and overcome.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for that.
I had a question that's so interesting, and I think it will be quite beautiful to see a lot of the reclaimed materials in use in some of the designs that you've developed in the presentation. On the rebate, is that a workplace or a marketplace just for Arup and its partners, or do you see it being broader for the broader community? And is there like a fee? Would there be some type of fee to join it that could help sustain it?
I'll jump in on this one. So there's 2 stages to the Arup rebate. First of all, we're starting it on an internal basis, and we're going to see how that goes and what the appetite is, and get all of our mistakes out there, and see how that works, and really build it up from there. And then there's an opportunity to sort of launch this as a platform with a fee basis to it, potentially. Or potentially, Arup might decide that it does so much for its image that they'll waive that, or waive that for certain clients, or include it within our client bids as a tool that we can then use internally. So there's definitely the financial model for the Arup rebate. There's some options, and we're going to start by building the internal platform to see first how it's used. I don't know if anyone else wants to jump in there.
I'll add to that, Lucy, and I think it's actually one of the learning points from the YSIP programme is the fact that we'd look to target the companies and clients and collaborators that want to come along the journey with us as well. First of all, we can get the ball rolling with them, and thereafter we can look to go bigger thereafter. So it'd be kind of the internal would identify who we can best collaborate with and go forward from there.
All right, awesome. Mary?
Thank you. I think great presentation with great details. So I think that was a good presentation with a lot of details which were relevant and useful. You mentioned something to do with system approach. I think systemic changes are very important in innovation. So I just had a general question on what kind of systemic changes would you like to see as an organization in terms of innovation?
I'll take this one. So in terms of do you mean organisation in terms of our group, or do you mean in terms of organisation in terms of Arup? Sorry, just for clarification.
So I mean as an organization and linking up to other coordinated efforts as well.
As part of the wider network. So in terms of as the organisation, so what we've done, we've been helped informed by the Better Way strategy, which is Arup's sustainability strategy. And what that is looking to do is that's looking to make sustainable development the new normal. And the kind of implementation of reclaimed materials in construction is the kind of creation of that kind of circular construction industry, which is what we're looking to do and looking to contribute towards too. But the construction industry is going to need more than just Arup in terms of inputting into it. So we're certainly looking to connect and collaborate with others. And the YSIP programme, again, Mott MacDonald were on that with us, and it was fantastic to learn from them. They do a lot of work similar to us, and we had the opportunity to kind of to pitch our idea to them, listen to what they had to say, and be able to connect, and we will look to kind of develop that relationship in the future.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome. We have a minute left. So any last thoughts from our judges? Anything you think you'd like for them to take note of as they work further?
I did have another question on the value proposition side. Is there measurable cost savings that you've seen at this point? And there seems to be an implicit cost savings. How much can you guesstimate system-wide?
Yeah, I'll jump in to take this one. So actually, one of the key barriers that we're looking at to address is the cost reduction element of using reclaimed materials. And in a simplistic approach, as with any novel technology, the startup is always more expensive. But with increasing demand and increasing research and growing expertise in the field, we hope to lower the costs that way. And the key thing that I mentioned there is demand. So it's incentivizing people to get on board. And we're seeing a massive change in consumer behavior in the way that we eat, the way we travel, we dress. It's about kind of replicating that appetite on a larger commercial scale. And we see that happening through business incentives. So today we've spoken a lot about businesses reporting on their SDGs and their carbon footprint and their sustainability impact, but also with increasing regulatory measures that are coming in, key being the carbon taxation, which is going to impact all sectors and not just the most carbon emitting ones, of which construction industry is one. So with those incentives coming in, we are very, very positive that we're going to be able to impact the cost element of this, and there's going to be a reduction in it. And if I just may quickly add, in the last year, we saw a massive spike in the building materials cost, and the construction industry, as well as all the home renovators were massively impacted by that. But we hope that through reusing materials and bringing this model in, we're actually creating resilience in the system. So it's got a much larger, like a much greater exponential positive effect once we're able to implement these kind of processes and get people on board on this.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a rather enlightening, it's been a really wonderful session. Thank you, Arup team. Your presentation has been fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.